Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about soil basics. Just something that I have found as I have talked to different people who are interested in succulents and cactus and starting to go down the path of this area in their lives, exploring their inner gardener. They get a little intimidated by some of the kind of basic concepts. And I thought it was a really good idea for us to just start with some of these little areas in this series where we're just going to talk about some of the basic stuff that trips people up and causes problems. So when you're looking at soil for cactus and for succulents, the reason why that's really important is because cactus and succulents across the board, they tend to store water in their leaves. They are incredibly good at being able to store that water. In fact, you can actually cut them off, little cuttings, little pieces of them, and they'll actually survive for quite a long time. And even months later, they can start rooting, and it's because they've stored all of that water within all of their cells. This is different than if you had like perennial type of plants, where if you pull them out of the ground and they don't have the right type of soil, they don't have the right type of structures in place, they're going to immediately die on you. So one of the things to understand when you're very first working with succulents and with cacti is that their soil needs are going to be different. If you can on the internet anywhere like Amazon, any of those places, you can actually buy soil that's been put together for you. But what I've learned over time is that even then, that's kind of a one size fits all. And it doesn't really always fit all. You want to take into account a couple things in your area. You want to think about the amount of sun that you have in the particular area that you live in. You also want to think about how much rainfall. I happen to live in Northern California in a zone that's called 9B. We do get a lot of rainfall. I have to watch the composition of my soil very carefully as a result. So let's get into it. Let's just talk about how you can create your own soil mix that works for you. Again, the distribution of this, there's no set in stone. Hey, you need to have so much of XYZ in your soil. You're just going to learn over time. What this is going to help you prevent is some of the more common issues that end up happening when you have cacti and succulents for new people into this hobby. So you will start to see things like your plants will rot, for example, or your plants will become soggy over water. They start to yellow. They get sick. You might get mold on them. They'll start becoming susceptible to pests. All of those type of things if you don't get the soil composition correct from the beginning. So let's make it easy so that it's not something that you're nervous about, so that when you spend money on a plant that you're relatively okay in terms of what's going to happen with that plant and how it's going to mature. And let's get started. Okay, so I always just start with basic. Here's a palm, cactus, and citrus. I just buy this at the normal garden store. It's not anything that's specific or special other than you can use it for palm, cactus, and citrus. But what's interesting about this type of soil, it's different than if you were to buy like houseplant soil, right? Or your standard Miracle-Gro. It has a different composition. You can actually see inside here, it's a little more grittier from a texture standpoint. There's typically some rocks in here, things like that. So it tends to be, more porous, the type that's actually going to be able to drain a little more quickly. I usually have a bucket of rocks. This is just something that you can buy at a local garden center. That happens to be Cali Gold. I use it a lot in my landscapes, and so I usually have a ton of that sitting around. So that's my other thing that I use quite a bit. Perlite is the other one that I like. That helps with adding just additional drainage. The thing about perlite is you can actually get it in different sizes. So you kind of want to get something, that's a little bit on the larger side. Don't get some of the really fine powdery kind. You want it to be a little bit bigger. And then my ultimate cheat, this is fertilizer that I usually put in at the top of a plant. I'm mentioning this because the granules work extremely well, or have for me, and it's because this is slow release. So what that means is that over time, the water will, as you water the plant, it will slowly start to break it down for the plant, and you're not at risk of over fertilizing. Because again, remember, succulents and cacti, because they store water so well, within the plant, what's going to happen is if you over fertilize them, they're going to suck that up in, and it actually burns them from the inside. So you really want to make sure that you're not doing that. I'll put links to all of this stuff. Most of it, comes from Amazon, like I mentioned, or your local garden center. And it's super easy to get your hands on this. Super easy for you then to be able to create your own soil, and you don't necessarily have to buy a mix that is super expensive. Okay, so we'll just get started with some beginning. So if I'm going to plant a succulent, for example, I'm going to start actually with the soil, because succulents in general, they're going to want a little bit more soil in the mix than your cacti are going to. But if I'm going to plant a cactus, I'm actually going to start with rock. And there's a reason why. As we start building this out, you'll see a little bit more. It's actually, I'm just using this as the base, right? What do I want to have in there that's going to comprise most of the composition of what I'm putting together? You'll see as we build this, it's going to become more and more apparent why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Okay, so I'm starting here with the soil. That's the bulk of it. Over here where the cacti is, I'm going to start with the rock. I'm then going to add on the cacti side. I'm just going to put a little bit of soil in here, but you can see it's not as much as what I put over on the right for the succulent. Now they're going to like a little bit of rock too in this particular soil, even though you can see there are some tiny little rocks in there. I'm going to probably, especially for my area, since I get more rainfall, I'm just going to put a little bit in here. So again, you can see it's kind of similar, right? It's kind of that secondary layer of what I'm going to be adding in. By the way, if you don't have one of these tools, they are super cool. Easy to find on Amazon. Very, very easy for you to scoop. I pretty much live with these things, so highly recommend that you get something like this. Okay, so next element that I typically put in is some level of perlite. I'm just going to put this in. I'm just going to do a little bit. Again, it's going to be a little bit more on the cactus side, and then a little bit less over here on the succulent side. Okay. Then I just mix it together. And I'm going to show you in a second, once I get this mixed, how you can see the difference between the two. And you'll be able to really quickly see, as we mix this, that there's some additional drainage that's being provided for the succulent side, right? It's got some of that rock in there. It's got some of that perlite in there. And what that's going to do is that's going to increase the drainage. But the succulent itself actually wants to have a little bit more of that soil in there. It's going to actually enjoy that. It's going to like having those nutrients. So you can see on that side, while it's a mix, it leans a little bit more on the soil side, and that being a better mix from my perspective and what I've used over the years. Okay, now over here on the cacti side, we're just going to mix this around. And what you will see pretty quickly as I do this is that on this side, it's definitely more rock, right? More rock, more of the perlite. You can see there's a little bit of the soil in there. And I might even add more perlite potentially here, or even a little bit more rock. But I want you to see them next to each other, because you can see the difference. And again, cacti, what's the reason? Why are we doing this? Well, cacti, they hold a lot of water within their cells, right? If you get a rainstorm, you don't want that rainstorm rotting your plant. It will start to rot at the roots. It will start then to rot up in the center, and then pretty soon you've got this squishy mess. And that's something that cacti are particularly susceptible to. So when you're planting, and especially if it's inside of a pot, you're going to want to increase that drainage. And how you increase the drainage is you're just putting these big pieces in, right? And so what that means is the soil can't bind together and stay super wet. The water's going to just flow through on the pot, and you're always going to have a hole in the bottom of your pot. For cacti and succulents, you absolutely have to have that. But this is just the way that you make sure that the water goes through carefully, that it is not compacting around the roots or around the base of the plant, and that all it's going to do is it's going to allow that drainage. That water is going to flow through pretty quickly, and that soil will dry out very fast because there's a large level of rock in there. Over here on the succulent side, you can see not so much, right? you're still wanting that drainage to be in there. But again, succulents can handle this a little bit better. They don't struggle as much with that as cacti do, and so they're a little more tolerant of basically having a little bit more soil in there. I'll tell you, I get better color on my plants when I do this. And the reason why is because I am basically allowing more nutrients because of the soil that's in there. But again, the drainage is really important. So I just wouldn't use the soil directly out of the bag, even though it says it's for cactus. I don't trust it. And so for me, I mix these things in just to help it out a little bit from a drainage standpoint. There are certain succulents you'll find over time that you want to get a little closer towards this cacti mix because they'll tend to rot on you. That's just something you have to find out for your area. It's also something you need to know about yourself and how often you keep trying to water. When in doubt with a succulent or with cacti, withhold water. That is like the ultimate hard thing for people to do because we're all used to having house plants where we're constantly watering them on a weekly basis, and that's just really gonna cause problems for you as you're raising your succulents. So for most, though, this actually works really well. I tend to grow a lot of aeoniums. This works really well for them, so long as I'm keeping the drain porous by adding the perlite, by adding the rocks to that mix. It's actually going to help it out. So this is the basics. You would just put these inside of a pot. By the way, if you are planting something in the ground, again, think about it. You're not going to be able to control the water as well as you would within a pot. So again, you're going to want to think about, where am I putting this? Is the soil type pretty loose? You can see here, this is very loose, right? It's not going to compact very well. If you have clay soil in the ground, that's not going to be a great place for cacti or succulent to grow. So you would have to add a lot of this so that you can get this type of composition, so that the water again isn't gonna come up underneath the plant and rot the plant from the bottom. Okay, so that's the basics. Again, these are just common things that you can get everywhere. It's just perlite, it's just some of rock, and it's just some soil, and start with the palm, cactus, and citrus soil, and you can make your own custom mix. Over time, you'll learn what works really, really well in your area. And again, based upon, how much rainfall you get or how often you water plants, that's going to help you with that. But you will have less of your plants die on you. And don't worry if you do, it's okay. We're all learning. But you will have less and less of your plants die on you. And I know with some of these being quite expensive, that can be a challenge if you're losing a lot of them. So hopefully this has been super helpful for you to understand the difference in how you can compose the soil to grow the different types of plants and what's good for them. Again, at the end, I always just add a little bit of my cheat sheet, which is that fertilizer over here. It's just a tiny little 1/4 teaspoon to the top once I've planted the plant in and put the top dressing in. But this is ultimately the combo that I use that has worked very well for me. I lose the smallest amount of plants, and hopefully this has been helpful for you. As always, if you like this content, like and subscribe. Thanks so much and have a great day.